Pizza Tower's good stuff. If that's what you wanted to hear me say, yeah, the video game's good. The sense of getting back into max speed at an instant while still needing to maintain it with the game's combo system, peppered with wacky ideas that all tie into said combo system, is kinda immaculate. I could go on about favorite stages or individual mechanics, how they really work, or how I'm less a fan of that one compared to others. Smart 2D platformer boss design, how they just have a parry and you don't need the parry, but it feels so good and improves on the rhythm of the game so much. And you know, maybe we'll talk about that sometime. But something stood out to me a lot more and, ultimately, made the entire gameplay experience meld together more perfectly and feel less like an homage of 2D platformers, and especially the Wario Land games, but more a contemporary evolution of those ideas to become something very now, very good, and perhaps better than its inspirations.
Oh boy.
See, I wasn't initially sold on Pizza Tower as this amazing platformer or this super fast game. I was sold on it by a funny man who kept appearing in fan art, who sweated through every sprint with a look of abject terror, who embodied the manic energy of his gameplay, and world so perfectly, I couldn't help but love the guy. He's your average Joe tossed into a horrible hellscape with an overwhelmed disposition asked to do unreasonably dangerous things for ultimately very little. That just makes you appreciate him all the more. The anxious little pizza pal, Peppino Spaghetti. Peppino isn't exactly something new. That guy with the pizza and the mustache that's in a lot of the local pizza places, like he's on the box and there's little statues. He's that guy. You're playing as that dude. You are literally that guy.
That's so good!
And therein lies the heart of Peppino's joke as a character. Due to his entire gimmick, he's naturally made to embody a symbol of family and hard work. Some vague stereotype of an Italian guy who make into pizzas for a living. Something as American as hamburgers and fortune cookies. So you take that traditional figure, the backbone of hard work paying off and letting you provide, and string him out to the nth degree in character and story. Peppino carries whatever the opposite of confidence is about him. Panicking at the smallest thing, eyes bulging and stretching, barely getting by with pitiful belly flops and whatever this crawl is. The guy is an absolute wreck in every single animation, and that was developer McPig's primary goal in fleshing out the character. Taking what was once the protagonist of a horror game featuring pizza-themed nightmares and a style close to Courage the Cowardly Dog, and expressing that fear through a high-octane platformer.
The things I do for love.
And Peppino doubles down hard on this by not just being a ball of energy outwardly, but inwardly. My man's is outright destitute, riddled with debt, miserable, and forced to platform around a death trap keep for the amusement of a seemingly omniscient pizza entity. You know, we've all been there. But really, we have all been there. The ideal Peppino is designed around, a symbol of the everyman made to be super marketable so people will eat it to pizza, gets to be distorted and warped by the modern sensibilities of today. Unconquerable debt to forces beyond your control and comprehension, performing insane tasks not for something exceptional, but just mediocre survival, the need to just do something at every moment for the sake of a constant bit of productivity, barreling forward no matter how many times you get knocked down by little speed bumps. Yeah, that's pretty familiar. And having Peppino serve as a victim to all of this with his extraordinary ability to constantly release all of that energy at the tip of a hat, his insane flexibility with all he can do, with memes, parries, and a flow that you can get better, stronger, faster, more pizza powerful with.
That's pretty good.
In ages past, we created supermen who solved the complex problems of their time with simple solutions, who embody the answer to all of the frustrations of the day with their presence. Weird Little Pizza Dude's one of them, and he's doing it with the face of the tried and true family-based solutions that worked in the past. Peppino is simultaneously an embrace and rejection of everyman values, starting from the same place that your Mickey Mouses and your Bilbo Bagginses thrived in, starting where you're at, and feeling very modern senses of overwhelming frustration, anxiety, and an encroaching feeling of failure the moment you stop moving forward. And he weaponizes it, turning his entire body, all of the effort he can give, into a near unstoppable wrecking ball of destruction. Every single bit of level geometry becomes a playground. Enemies start cowering the moment your speed becomes too much for them to handle. Peppino is pizza perfection as a power fantasy, taking out every last errant, nervous thought and unleashing a marinara mauling on everything that dares stand before him. But this isn't something entirely new either. To help guide players in, we've got a mutation of inspiration to add as a topping too. Directly comparing Pizza Tower to that main inspiration, Wario Land, Peppino definitely has a couple things in common with the big garlic boy. They both got massive and expressive jaws. They both will do whatever they need to for money, pile drive innocent people to death because they're there, stage-specific power-ups usually related to them getting beat up. They're just goofy guys who ruin everything around them. We've been there. However, where they differ is that Wario... yeah, that guy really deserves everything that's coming to him.
I hate you.
A treasure hunter only willing to help out people for money, raider of lost civilizations, disrespecter of women. No, it's understood that whenever Wario is in pain, that guy deserves it. The joke is that Wario's suffering lets him incidentally get through levels. We're meant to laugh at Wario's pain and feel ungodly strong from his virtual indestructibility. Very 90s-centric humor there. Peppino, though, that's a good man right there. You want to give him a little kissy kiss. You're doing great. While Wario's going after millions of coins, Peppino's going after like $50 a level. Wario deserves to get beat up and turned into a basketball. Peppino's naturally a little ball of anxiety who just so happens to get stuck in this knight armor or barrel or need to learn the horrors of war firsthand. Wario is a machismo power fantasy that survives the meat grinder of slapstick comedy. Peppino is the power fantasy of just getting through your daily grind and somehow coming out on top. The comedy here doesn't come from laughing at Peppino's suffering, but laughing with him as you watch dozens of enemies die to him riding the big sausage.
Yeah.
There is a reason why seeing "you hurt Peppino 10 times" is so upsetting. He's not meant to get hurt like Wario is. That's your fault. You can do better than this. You can do better than Wario. But look, all of this would be solid but ultimately fruitless theory crafting if the game itself didn't support it. Peppino might be a strong base to work from, but what's the Pizza Tower do to reinforce the... There's obviously a lot of surrealist elements to Pizza Tower. Lots of really fun, out there environments or ideas taken straight from Wario Land to properly homage that series for the explicitly stated purpose of showing Nintendo that people still want those games. But on top of all the fun and wacky worlds, all the bright beaches, alien abductions, and grimy sewers that are farcical to go through for as little money as you're getting, you get reason to be properly anxious. All throughout this tower are the ruins of other pizza establishments. Standees for Pizza Boy Jr. littered about to show the inevitable demise of Peppino's business. You're insulted by all of the various granny pizzas you encounter across the tower. Told you absolutely cannot do it by a lovable grandma who thinks you are just the worst kind of a waste of space. Every single John the Pillar you knock down causes a fast food frenzy. Peppino desperate to get to the end, or else he's gotta refund every point and buck he's made to Pizza Face. The player feeling the desperate struggle of getting from one end of a maze to another, mowing down every obstacle, and feeling every moment where you slow down like a punch to the face. And then level to level, the game's glad to remind you of the suffering that is your nerve-wracking grind again and again. You've got Gnome Forest, forcing you to deliver pizzas through timed platforming challenges as Gustavo and Brick, forcing the admittedly expected gimmick of pizza delivery with the discomfort of an entirely new control scheme. Peppabot Factory shows an entire assembly line of mechanical Peppinos. Pizza Head come modifying his actually successful victim into replaceable assembly line chefs before cramming Peppino himself into a pizza box. Forced to be his own product and flail around pointlessly. Don't Make a Sound shows a rundown pizza joint turned into game theory fanfiction, as Peppino desperately tries to avoid haunted pizza-themed animatronics or else be turned into one himself, dancing for the amusement of others eternally. Only to end with Peppino shooting the destitute business up, facing his fears with the only solution he needs.
After all, who needs courage when you have a gun?
And speaking of guns, War shows an entire lab of Peppinos, all being bred to fight as disposable soldiers for Peppino to kill by the dozens with his shotty, not paying their lives any mind as he escapes the hell that is War. And he had a cut backstory where he was a war veteran, and you only unlock war fatigues if you escape war on your first try, so if you don't get it, did Peppino die in the war? Is this purgatory? Does he see everyone he kills as himself? Are we shooting PTSD in the face as the pizza man? I'm just asking the questions here. Given what Peppino has to face for bosses, probably. Struggling, self-indulgent artists, old-fashioned gunslingers, another pizza mascot willing to be more in your face than Peppino, raking in that temporary success. Yeah, there's some stuff to read into. Peppino's whole journey is a constant tug-of-war with his replaceability and sanity, culminating in the game's final boss fight, soundtrack. Because when Peppino finally reaches the top of the tower and tears down the mask of the monster terrorizing him all game...
Hello there.
Just another mascot, one constantly discarding everything and anything he can get his hands on in one manic shot of cartoon mayhem to finally take you down. All the while, the song After You Get What You Want, You Don't Want It is sampled in the background in a violent scream of the utter inanity of your entire silical existence. The feeling of dissatisfaction at actually reaching the top being built into Peppino's character until every single boss is brought back and Peppino loses it, doing insane damage to each one and ending with a pile driver to end all pile drivers. It is the exclamation point on Peppino's final answer, which is just screw it. But none of that compares to the sheer, overwhelming terror of the game's fourth boss. A hideous mass of flesh, worthlessly flailing through a pizzeria promising quality. Limbs contorting from a steady base to a gelatinous, malleable mound of meat, before even the slightest amount of resistance makes them melt into nothingness. Endless, meaningless tasks repeated over and over and over again, fruitlessly, forced to jump around like a frog, with as much direction as a headless monstrosity. Your body dissolves again and again into pitiful slop. You become what you make, tongue and mouth liquefying into a cheese-like mess. The pizzeria crumbles around you into a destitute repetition of nothingness, and no matter how hard you try, no matter what moves that were successful for you before, it doesn't matter. No matter how hard you work, how many dozens of times you do the task, you can't stop yourself from falling apart until finally you're nothing but an amorphous beast, chasing, pursuing, relentless in trying to absorb any semblance of success, gnawing forward with a speed only equal to your hunger. And you fail to reach it. You see the ruins of another business, another place that fell, another life like yours long since snuffed out. This is the fake Peppino boss fight. And it f***ing rules. Transforming Peppino's anxiety and animations into the body horror that inspired the original concept of Pizza Tower is as disconcerting as it is cool as hell. And this fight absolutely would not work if Peppino wasn't so well defined as a character. Every animation, every mechanic is taken to its logical extreme in a horrifying exaggeration of a supposed mirror match. And just, man, it's so good. It's so good. I know we've been a little silly, a little hyperbolic with everything here. You don't need to view the game as literally scaling Kafka's Tower in order to enjoy Pizza Tower, or even extract any deeper meaning from it at all. It's a really good platformer mechanically with an art style that isn't my particular jam, but is incredibly well realized and well thought out. But I do think that we discard the purpose of protagonists like Peppino a little too quickly in order to rush out to insist, yo, this game's gameplay is fantastic. Everything about Peppino has been considered to best mesh with and be at the forefront of Pizza Tower. His constant manic energy, insecurities, and fear all put on proud display in the form of a little scrunko who really should have it more together. And that sort of imagery is resonant with so many people, from those who worked in the food service industry to those with outstanding financial or physical obligations that seem to keep piling up, to those who just think the world we're living in is a little much to internalize. And trust me, it is. It doesn't have to be a life-changing revelation, but I think a lot of Pizza Tower's success came from Peppino himself, and how the character was able to sell the promise of the game's speed and tone flawlessly, with just appearance, animation, and execution. Pizza Tower is exactly what you expect of it just seeing a couple seconds of gameplay. A sensory overload that only makes sense when you're in the thick of it and using all of your tools in a flawless burst of speed that feels so perfect when you nail it. And that's some pizza power right there, my dudes. My paisano Peppino Spaghetti is just the right topping to flaunt how to design for anxiety.